Hi, and welcome to March Saturday Sampler. I'm here just first of all to tell you the setup for this month's block. Now, when we're getting going, I've talked to you about marking and numbering your fabric, and then after you're cutting it, to also number it, and I've told you that that's how I get started. So this is a sample of my setup for March. We are doing the Burst Star block, and you'll find that on page 9 of your pattern. And this is what it looks like. And these are the fabric layouts. So you're going to have your numbering of your fabric, and you'll see my setup here. I've actually already cut my blocks. So it's going to be fabrics 1, 3, 5, 6, 11, and 15. So the first thing I do is I get my numbers out. I identify the fabric based on your color guide, and I put the numbers on the fabric in your kit that we give you, and then I go to the cutting. I take fabric 1, I do the cutting, and then I put it with my number on it so I don't get confused, and then so on, get all my cutting laid out. So then when I go back to the piecing, I know exactly which color, and I don't have to keep going back to this guide. You can have it out, but this is a really great way to keep organized. When we're doing the block, we're doing hourglass this time, making a center with kind of an elongated 9 patch, half square triangles, and our quarter units. No flying geese this time, but just a different setup on one of those corner blocks. The other thing that I wanted to show you, a great way to keep organized, some new project bags we have in. They're in 2 sizes. We've always had project bags, but these are new ones, and they're fabulous. So they have the regular project bag, and now they have another outside pouch. I'm using this for mine. This one you can actually put your notebook in the outside here and all your goodies in here, and then in this section it can put your project pack and your rulers. It's a 12 by 14 on the outside, and then a smaller pack here. We have these in the shop, and then we also have a larger one. This is a 16 by 16. So in here, I have another kit in this right now, but you can put your core board in here. I have a smaller size, but it can go up to 16 by 16. And on it, you can attach your 12 and a half by 12 and a half blocks. Perfect for this project. And in here fits your books and projects and rulers and things in this pouch. So we have both of these sizes in the shop. And so you might want to think about getting one of our great project bags. They're really sturdy and last forever and ever. So anyways, we'll get you in another section that I'll be piecing the blocks. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to show you in making the Burst Star block for March is the piecing of the hourglass. So the easiest way to do this, first of all, you're going to be using that 6-inch square, which is fabric 3, fabric 6, and fabric 15. They don't identify that in the instructions in making the hourglass. So those are the 6-inch squares that you've cut twice on the diagonal in each of those instructions, and you can see that on your pattern piece. Fabric 3, fabric 6, and fabric 15, those squares that you've cut twice. And that results in triangles. And this is the layout. Now I find it really easy to lay them out ahead of time and stack them all up so that they're ready to sew. And this is the block that we're making, which is up in the corner of the pattern. So you can refer to that and see the fabric color layout. And that's those hourglasses in each of the corners of that block. So I've laid it out for you right here. So the first thing that you're going to do is piece these together, this piece. So you're going to take this piece and this piece and put it right sides together. These should both match up together, and I'm going to put it right through my machine with that 1/4 inch seam and sew it. And then you can sew all of these pairs together, but just for demonstration purposes, I'll take this bottom half now, right sides together. Those match up perfectly, and then I'm going to put that through my machine. Now, when you're pressing these, you're going to press these all to the dark. So I'm going to open this up and press it to the dark. Okay. And then the other piece also to the same color. That way, when I'm piecing it together, they'll nest. And I've already done one ready to nest, but you can see that I've pressed them both to the same color so that they'll nest together. Now when I'm ready to, I already have done this, I haven't sewn it, but I've nested it. That way you can see it's going to nest together. And these two pieces, if everything's worked out correctly, should be the same size. Okay, and you're going to sew it right along there. But I would suggest taking your nice little fine quilting needles or quilting pins and putting a pin right there at the seam so that they will stay matched up together. That triangle should match perfectly and that side should match perfectly. And then just put it right on your machine. Sew it along. You have that nice fine pin, so you should be able to sew right over the top. And that corner should match perfectly. Okay, and I would just sew all four of them at once. Just string piece it, but right now I only have one just to demonstrate it. And when you open it up, it should match perfectly. Nicely done. If it doesn't, then I would just take out the seam about an inch on each side, pull it out, repin it, and resew it. Now when I open it up, I'm going to just be pressing to one side, and I'll just open it up with my hand and just finger press it a little and press it. Remember that we're ironing. We're pressing, we're not ironing. We're not ironing our clothes. We're pressing a block, and make sure this presses down on each side so that we have the seam opened. Now, you see this, we have these little tags out on each corner. You're going to want to trim those off. Let me get this out of the way here. So I'm going to trim those off on each point. I had already pre-cut that one off. I'm going to trim those off on each corner so that when we're ready to piece this in, I have that block. But actually, now that I think of it, we don't have to do that because we're going to be cutting this down. So ignore what I just told you because we're going to have to cut this down to, you would do that if you weren't cutting this block down, but we have to cut this down to 4.5 inches. So how do you do this? Well, of course you can't put this right here because it would be lopsided. You have to measure it from the center. So let's think about that. Right now, I don't have a 4.5 inch square ruler. I'm using my 6.5 inch square ruler. So I've put a piece of tape where my 4.5 inches to remind me, but I have to mark it off at the 2 1/4. So I find my 2 1/4, which is right here. There's my 2 1/4 there and my 2 1/4, and I have to put it right in the middle. And also I want to watch the diagonal so it's lined up. Okay, and I'm going to cut across here and cut across here. And then I'm going to turn it. And then hopefully if I did it right, my 2 1/2 will be right there. I'm at my 4 1/2 on the bottom where my tape is. And my 2 1/4 is right in the center, and I'm still on the diagonal. So you kind of have to watch all of that the diagonal is where your diagonal line is, that your 2 1/4 is there, and you're at your 4.5 inch mark. And it all looks pretty darn good. I think I'm still lined up nicely. And I'm going to square it up on this side and this side. And also that your points are in the corners. So I have that squared up and it's even all the way around. And that way when you sew it, it will still be even all the way around also. So you do have to cut these down to 4 1/2. They'll be oversized. Okay, and that's how you make your hourglass. You need 4 of these. You're going to do this 4 times. All right, that's it for hourglass.